Hey everybody, this course is Mastercam 101. This is an in-depth Mastercam course. It's being taught live with Jay Kramer.
Okay, folks. I'm not going to go into too much design or anything right now, but just so you know, I'm going to speak for a minute before I start to bring a file in, is that when we go into this course, like I said, we'll go through and define all the areas of the different parts of the screen, how the icons work. We'll define all the options, for example, general selection, different ways to grab geometry. I'm going to show you several different ways to use the system, and from understanding why you're working with keystrokes to icons, how to configure the icons, how to set the screen up the way you want it, make it more comfortable for you, how to pick machine definitions and things like that. And then, of course, then we'll start getting into our project, creating a wireframe project on that. And later on, what's going to happen is you'll wind up downloading, if you don't already have, a home learning edition where you'll be able to draw your part, save it, and when you have questions and start getting into toolpaths, you'll be able to share it with us, or share it with me, I would say, on that. And we'll do some, certain times we'll do some office hours or things like that, where we can talk about what you're having issues with. You can share your files with me, we can pull those up, and also during our course. So what going to happen is that we'll do, say, a 2-hour to 2.5-hour course. Basically a 2-hour course with, say, maybe a half-hour questionnaire toward the end, were stuff that I covered that particular night. So we are going to go into depth about drawing in 2D space, 3D space, working with the work coordinate system, being the WCS, how to set things up. So with that kind of thought going through it. And then as we go through, we'll also be going into pocketing, contouring, drilling, and then I'll be talking about, there's standard pocketing, and then there's high-speed pocketing, then there's different types of options for pocketing and contouring things, and I'm going to go into all those details, along with also going into all the different types of settings, understanding about getting the tools in and out of your cut. How do I get the tool to go different directions? How do I get the tool to do what I want it to do? And that's where you guys will come in too, is that interaction is I'll be looking for, is that I'll be looking for that interaction where you're asking me, hey, I'd like the tool to do something else. What do I do? And I'll make sure that we get that to you. So what I'm going to do is kind of just go through and open up a file. So for example, I'm going to go ahead and bring in a file, being in this case, a space claim file. That's about live things. Hey, if you don't say it right the first time, you try again. So I'm going to select the space claim. We can see a preview of that actually at this particular line. I'm going to go ahead and open that up, save my other one, no. And so this is basically what we call a dumb solid. We can see real quickly how it sits. So as I go through the course, I'm going to talk to you about being able to bring in files and set things up and work with those types of things. And how to understand how to set them up. I realized that some of my stuff is not set up quite the way I wanted on that, because right now what I'm just going to go ahead and do here is I want to be able to set up stock around this part and things like that. So I'm using what we call as a dynamic WCS to reorientate. So I'm going to do this a couple of times, and I'm going to set up some stock, and I'm going to go ahead and set up some things called levels, ways of sharing geometry between different levels to turn on and off. I know I'm speaking a little bit fast, but we have so many thoughts to go through at this particular time on that. So I'm going to go ahead and say op1, and this case being op1 configuration for myself on that. And I'm going to go ahead and change my color, and I'll go ahead and turn on that thing called levels. Some of my stuff is popping out. Sorry about that. It happens to be our first time with the X7 in this particular configuration on that. So I'm going to go ahead and set up some stock for us real quickly. I'd like to use what we call levels. Things that you'll learn about is how to use the level manager to actually set up your geometry on different levels. And that way you'll be able to see in a minute is I'll be able to turn things on and off very easily. And giving you those same types of tools on that. I'm just giving it a little bit of extra stock around the part on that. So I'll go ahead and set that. And I also would like to do real quickly is that I'm going to go actually take that stock and I want to drop it down a little bit. Some of my stuff is coming off the screen. And hold on one second. Of course, looking for buttons that are not there this particular time. So View Manager is way over here. Here we go. That. Alt X will translate, and looking at our notes, grabbing our level for our geometry, enter, and it'll remember the last one I was at. That's good. We'll move that down. And all I'm doing is setting so I have 25 thousandths at the top and more stock at the bottom, so as I was holding it in a vise on that. I'm going to do is I'm going to actually keep right-clicking for, when we go into the course, I'm going to show you guys how to add certain things to the right-click. So as you see me, as in this particular case, I did not set up certain things in my right-click, and I keep right-clicking looking for my dynamic WCS. To be able to go ahead and move forward. But now that I keep doing that, you get used to looking for your tools, and it gets easier and easier. So I want to make sure that that's the active on that. And so another thought too is that a lot of times when you bring in geometry and stuff like that, people like to use, in this case, this is a solid. So I can use the backwards E here, as we see in statistics. See, I've got 1 point, 12 lines, and 1 solid on that. Some people like to work with wireframe. So real quickly, I'm going to go ahead and change my color on that, and I'm going to set a different level, and I'll call that 3D wire from a solid. And go ahead and be able to set that up so we can have some wireframe on that. So I'm now using the option of create curves, all options, and you can see that I actually set that up. And what I'm going to go, one of the things I didn't do is I like to do for myself too, is actually set that on a level, because right now that's actually set as 3D wireframe. Nope, we got that set. We actually got that set where we wanted it to. On that, our main part is here, and 3D wireframe, set it ahead of time, and our stock on that. But if you like to use that all the time and have that option, I'm going to give you a little tip right now. If you actually go into settings and configuration, when you first set up your Mastercam, or anytime just before opening some files, for example, you can turn around and actually go into converters. You'll see this in the list of the system configuration. And if you go right here, you'll notice that I just checked edge curves. If you set that for edge curves, now every time you solid import, as shown here, when you open up your solid, it'll automatically have the wireframe with it. Then you can turn around and actually do other things when you're actually opening up your files. So for example, you could actually, I'm going to give you another little tip. So now if you've gone ahead and you've done that and you wanted to bring in your wireframe, now I'd like that wireframe to always be on a certain level. If you actually set the Entity Attribute Manager under CAD settings to active, and then open that up and set some of these settings, for example, lines, points, arcs, everything, on what color you'd like them to be and what level you'd like them to be on, for example, then every time you import a solid model, it'll create the wireframe, and automatically the system will automatically move it to that level for you. So now you'll have that, what we call a level, being a separate sheet. Now, I know I just said that about the levels, so I'm going to go ahead and apply and get out of this real quick on that, but I didn't turn on and off geometry. So what is that level slot for you real quick? Level slot for you here is if I want to turn off the stock, or maybe I would like to turn off the wireframe, or maybe I'd like to turn off the model and just have the wireframe. So this gives me a chance to be able to keep the geometry, keep the information on the screen on that. So in this case, I'm going to actually turn off that one as I start to continue through. And I'm just going to throw on a couple of toolpaths real quickly on here, and we won't worry about file names too much, and we'll go ahead. Oh, you know what we didn't do real quickly? I'm going to actually go back real quick. I'm going to skip out of this for 1 second, as I always still like to do it, is I still like to, a lot of time in the beginning, actually set up stock. But at the same time, let's set up the stock real quick at this particular point where I'm sitting. So how do I set up the stock? So I'm going to go into stock setup, and in this case, I can use stock corners if I'd like. And I'm going to give you another handy dandy tip. Here's a thought. When you go to use stock corners for one thought, people use it quite often, but sometimes it doesn't quite work the way they want to. And I'm going to actually show you why that doesn't work. So I'm going to actually go back out, and I'm going to set down here for where you see the bottom here. It shows me at the bottom of my screen where my cursor is. It's showing me 3D. I'm going to set it for 2D, and I'm going to try to do that same thought. All right. So when I go to do it and set it, well, here we're going to need to zero these out a little bit. Going ahead and selecting there. In this case, it's now finding everything. There might be a slight amount of little changes that I haven't caught that they made in 7. A lot of times what happens for people, especially in 6 and earlier, is if this is set for 2D, it won't recognize the 3D corners, in this case, being the relative distance between one corner to the other and giving your X and Y value. So if you actually run into that where you don't find yourself getting a Z value and it's showing the stock at a thinness, look at your 2D and 3D. So since it didn't give us an issue, I'm not going to worry about this. But what I am going to do is that I do want to be able to go a little bit of toolpath on this particular part in this case. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is actually set up my other side for myself using the dynamic WCS to reorientate my part. So I'm going to flip about the X here at this particular time, bring that up to the top there, and I'd actually like it to be at that intersection corner. So I want to go ahead and get that banked off there relative to that one, and I'll go ahead and set that for op 2 so we can actually get to the other side real quickly on that. So I'm going to go back real quickly and set our view back for the top, being our op 1 equals, puts everything the way we were, isometric. You can see in this case, brings our solid model back. So now that I've defined stock and everything like that, when I go to do my toolpath and face real quickly, so we can see, in this case, I'm going to go ahead and say OK. And I'm going to go ahead and select, see if we can make that a little bit easier by not selecting anything else but just those facing tools. That, and we'll go ahead and let it face across the top of that part. Assign sequentially, so the next tool will come in automatically. Now I've gone ahead in this case, but what I didn't do, look in there real quickly. Let's look in here and say, okay, we've got which way do we want to go. I'm going to give it some zigzag and linking real quickly on that. And also in our course too, I'm going to go through and give you the options and show you how to set up certain things. So say, for example, facing. I'm going to use this as a relative point right here, is that you saw me just turn on clearance. And I like to go clearance in 1 inch, for example. I'm going to show you how to go into the options and how to set up defaults so that you can actually go in there and set it up so every time you go to 2D facing, clearance will be on and the value that you want will be there in that case. So top of stock, in this case, we can verify is here. We'll set this for absolute, and the top of the stock is going to be, in this case, minus 25 our part. Regenerate that one real quickly, and we'll continue through, and we're going to probably need to remove some material out of the inside area of that part. So using the solid in this case, using the edges I'd like inside there, going ahead and put in here, and say okay. We'll grab a tool. Always got to have a tool. It makes it easier to cut our parts. On that, set something. You know what? I'm going to actually right-click real quickly. Solid hole diameter. What's that radius in there? That radius is going to be half of that, so it's a 250. So if I do a 1/2 inch, I'm okay. Okay, I'll go with that. Add that tool. And see, worrying about that. We'll leave some material, a little bit of material on the walls. And I'll go 0 on the floor. I will transition. Of course, once again, that thought about clearance. I like to have that set. You know, top of stock, it's going to be top of my solid. In this case, and the depth is already selected. Roll into cuts. Good. So if I actually go back And I'm going to actually just look to see that, hey, I faced this off, and I've actually created this pocket so far on that. Let's go ahead and take a peek at that. So what I'm going to do real quickly is use the verify option on that, and we can see our stock is here, and our tool, and our holder, and maybe we can slow that down a little bit. So I'm going to go back and look to see if our tool went down across the face far enough. So what we can do is actually select back to here, and what I'm going to look at is this particular operation. I'm going to left click and go back into here, and I'm going to go ahead and set it for backplot. You're getting a quick view here actually of preview. See, I actually got a positive value here above the part. I'm getting a quick view of Mastercam X7 verify and backplot on that. So as I go back and I right click on that, I can see that when the tool comes down, I'm not actually touching anything across the top of that material. So that was quick and easy. So what do we got to do is we got to go back and look at that real quickly. So these are all those little details and stuff of what we want to follow and look and find out what happens and what we're doing. And I want to go into all those little details for you. So moving forward on that thought, I've gone ahead and went through one side of it real quickly, and so we're keeping this as a fast pace. But like I said, all those little details of what I'm doing, actually button by button, besides what you see me just kind of just rushing through on that, I'm going to go into detail. So this is what makes the course more interesting, is that it's not going to be a fast pace like this. We're going to go through and we're going to stop, and I'm going to show you the motion of the tool and all the different types of option and why does it do this and why does it do that. That's what makes the course most important for you, is finding out all those little details and buttons besides just pick here, pick there, and moving forward on that. So if we gone through real quick, we did the first side on that, I might turn around and go ahead and add myself a different group for the other side. So I'm going to add that, and I'm going to go actually into my view manager, and I'm going to actually select for op2, set that for the other side from where we were. But you know what we should do real quickly? This would be a nice little setup. We could have done this in the beginning. So another little setup I'd like to be able to show you that I will be showing you when we go ahead and do our course is I'm actually going to go back into the view manager. I'm going to set that back for the top here. Right click and isometric. We can see this coming from the upper hand corner. I'm going to set this for top view. I'm going to look at it like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually lock that in. So I'm going to put this in the top. I'm going to create what we call as a view sheet. So I'm going to say new view sheet, and I'm going to right click and say rename view sheet. A little window pops up over here. I'm going to say op1 top. Enter. And I'm going to right click and I'm going to say save view sheet as a bookmark. So what it's going to do is it's going to take a snapshot of where it sits now and save that along with some other settings. So I'm going to say okay. Now what I'm going to go ahead and do is I've got that one. So I'm going to go back into the view manager and we're going to set up our secondary side. So I'm going to isometric that. We can see where this is showing that corner right there. I'm going to right click again down here and say new view sheet. I'm going to rename that one. I'm going to call it op to bottom and enter. I'm going to right click and say save view sheet that view. But I'm going to right click real quickly back once again and just real quickly what's being saved. View sheets is going to go ahead and automatically save if it's in 2D, 3D, G-view, planes, tool planes, construction planes, Z-depth, our WCS, our colors, whatever's active at that particular time, I like a snapshot that I'll be able to toggle back for. So I'll say okay, go back to the beginning here. So when I went to the top, I went to the op1 top sheet, you can see down here my G view, my WCS, and my T plane are all set for top. Now when I go to op2, you'll see that it's automatically flipped over, and now we're looking at WCS of op2 and the TC plane of op2. And by the way, the G view, WCS, and TC plane all those details which we have to go into. We have to go into that information if you want to learn how to use planes and views and WCSs, dynamic WCS, all those different types of tools to be able to reorientate your part and things. And I'll also make sure that I bring you at least one preview thought of, let's say there's a modification to one of your files. So if you're using the work coordinate system, how that will actually reassociate itself when you import a copy of a modified model, okay? But you can see with the view sheet, so in this case, if I go back to here, in this case, everything that I'm working with here is actually set for that. Now when I go to this view, everything is toggled. So now I'm going to go ahead be able to do my toolpaths. So in that case, I could go ahead and I'm going to actually steal from Peter, and I'm going to bring that right down here and copy that after real quickly on that. What I'm going to look at is my geometry. So I'm going to add the chain to this particular side for one thought. Display before, do that. I'm going to get out of that real quickly. I want to look at one thought, is that these particular ones you can see right here in my facing. Op1 top is set for that view. I want to actually set those planes to follow that new view. So I'm just going to go into planes real quickly, and since we created that information, I can go ahead and select that and make that completely the new top. And I'll do the same thing on this one. What I will be showing you in class that I didn't actually do right here too also is how to actually do this with multiple operations at one time, not having to go into individually wise, things like that. So now what I want to be able to do is go ahead and redo my geometry and add that chain. So adding a chain real quickly on that, grabbing the top of that part there, good. And also going to look at my linking. Top of stock we know is up here now in that case, and the depth is going to be, for example, I can go ahead and reflect off any piece of this geometry I would like to use. So in that case, it's a 1-inch top on that. Now I can regenerate just the one. Now I can go back into here and start looking at the same thought. Is that my geometry, and going ahead back into solids, grabbing my edge, the geometry that I want. Looks good. Okay. Double checking my linking in this case. So depth, I'll go ahead and leave that in incremental because it already knows where the chain is. The top of stock, of course, is now up here on that. And of course, you're going to have a different reference plane that I didn't set up earlier. And regenerate that. And we'll go ahead and look at the workpiece. And we can see as it went through the first side on that. And I'm just going to actually click on the secondary screen. I can go ahead and select everything and set up for backplot on that. And let's look at follow and be able to see everything from the one side very easily, or be able to go back in there and verify that very easily. Make sure we got stock, got everything we needed. And I don't need to see the workpiece on the inside. Okay. So, like I said, in the course, we're going to go through all these different types of options. I didn't even go through contour. I didn't go through drilling or anything like that. But I want to be able to give you guys an option to ask me questions, maybe some of the questions of what things might be covered, stuff that you might be actually doing now that as you're learning and you're trying to grab more tools. I'm having an issue with this. Something maybe I might be able to help you with. But we're going to take the next 20 to 25 minutes here and see if you guys have questions. But like I say, is that the course is going to cover all these different types of settings. When I go in there, I'm going to show you all these different types of buttons, how this operations manager works on that. When you look in the operations, all these buttons on the top, what does this mean over here? What are the different controls, rotational axes, coolants, planes, filtering? What is all these little buttons and things and do, and how they control the tool in and out of the cut? All this different types of detail. and on several different types of operations. So like I said, it's all based on the 2D, but we're going to learn how to draw this part in 3D wireframe, and then I'm going to show you how to toolpath with that, and then I'm going to show you real quickly how to actually make this as a solid, and then go ahead and toolpath that solid. And we'll also, using the view sheets that we set up, I will want to go through and eventually set you up to show you how to do, let me go ahead and open up something else real quickly. The actual final project. What does the final project actually look like when you get done? That's a vise. That looks really nice. There we go. We say wait for it. So you can see once again, I've already got tool paths all the way through this, different types of tool paths, and these will be some of the paths that we cover on that. Of course, I'm going to add more paths and things like that because you need to learn more about some more of the other tools and things like that. But as you can see, the part, it's just showing the part. Doesn't look much different than what you've seen before. But the difference is I might say for op1, because we'll do 4 sides to this. First one, we're going to set up another vise. So I'm going to show you how to actually set that up, and we're going to share that vise in that configuration so that you'll be able to use those tools if you want to be able to set up setup sheets, things like that, that actually show the tool and how it's set up in the machine on that. But what also makes it nice is we can see the 4 different configurations, how it's going to be ran on top of selecting everything and being able to run through the entire part. Let me stop that for a second, bring this up a little bit. So I'm going to take you through being able to see everything that's being done. We've got little chamfers and everything, little break edges and things on that. We'll actually be including how to chamfer these edges inside, up top, inside, at the bottom. How do I set those depths? How do I get those to actually do what I want with the type of tools, being chamfer tools or spot drills and that kind of information. But when you get done with the course, you should be able to do all this, do all these different type toolpaths, understand what the options are, how to engage with the tool, how to get the tool to do what you want instead of just letting it go boom and it just doesn't do what you want. There's different types of factors for different types of shapes. We will work with a few other shapes. This will be our main first project on that, getting that set up, get you through some of the basics and knowing all the details and working with that. In this case, if you guys decide to go with the new X7, then we'll be looking at this being the new machine simulator for new verify and new backplot configuration in this case. And as you can see, this actually opens up as a separate secondary window. So if you actually have two windows, you can actually pull this over to another window and verify or backplot something while you're still programming and doing other things. You can go back and look at that while it's running, and then just move back over to your other screen and continue programming and working on, and I'll make some modifications. You can do, I'll be showing you about all these quick keys to get things to launch real easily. So how do I get certain operations to go in there and launch very fast into solids and things like that, into the verification? How does those tools work? Okay, Derek, let's see if we have, can you see the list of people?
Yes, I can, Jay. So I have the list, and I just want to say, first of all, thank you for a fantastic presentation, as usual. I also teach Mastercam, but every time I sit in on one of your presentations, I usually learn something new. And I do really like that second window where you can just verify in X7 and continue working. Just let your part verify somewhere else. That's fantastic. So, first of all, on our informal poll, I can tell you, Jay, we got about 10 to 1 on people saying, let's hang on for X7. So I think we're going to take that as our cue. And what I'm going to do is we'll change the website. Instead of starting the course on the 18th, which is next week, we're going to set a tentative date out of May 1st. Now, we can't actually put on the course until Mastercam releases X7, and sometimes, there are always last minute issues. So whether or not X7, we can't tell you the date X7 is going to release, but we can tell you that it's going to be very soon. So I will start a list with everybody on this list. You'll all be on the wait list. You will have first priority in the course. There are only 25 seats allowed in the course. We try to keep this small, just like a real, classroom environment would be. So that's it for the X7 question. I think that's answered. And now it's your time, guys. Everybody's out there. Do you have questions for Jay? We have a hard stop today at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific time. Jay and I both have commitments this afternoon, so we've got about 25 minutes. And now's your chance. You're on live with Jay Kramer. He will answer your questions. So go ahead and either type your question in or use the raise your hand function and we'll answer your questions.
Well, people are actually doing that before maybe a question or two comes up. There probably is going to be at least a question. As like I said, this is a base project because this will cover a lot of things for us, and then of course there'll be a few other different types of files to show you other different types of paths and how they work, and different types of pocketing and pocket facing and things like that. So we'll be able to have other geometry you'll be able to work with and practice at home with on that. And I will make sure that there's extra drawings, different shapes of stuff that you can use, using the tools that I give you, that you'll be able to draw these parts and give you something to be able to practice and work with at home. So that way that it's not exactly have to be homework, but what I always call, no matter what it is over the years, I call it seat time. The more time you play with it, the more time you get to know it. So here that thought comes in, is that if I got some projects for you and stuff at work with at home, all of a sudden they say, okay, next week we've done a couple of courses. You come in, and the next week we're going to do an office time. An office time is where you guys can come in and we just sit and you guys ask questions and share your stuff. So now you've gone ahead and you've tried to work on drawing or programming one of the other part models that I gave you. We can bring that up and look at that, and I can answer those questions too. So you're going to have a bit of information to be able to work with, along with the projects you're going to do together, being the main projects that I'm using as these tools. But I want to make sure that there is other projects and other tools that you'll be able to do on your own to continue to practice. So do we have any questions there?
We have a couple coming in, yeah, and just to follow up. So this is a lot of you guys have taken our recorded classes before, and once the courses are recorded, we do we do put them out there later at a lower cost. But if you want to go on live with Jay, this is typically the same kind of a course you would get with Jay if you signed up at College of the Canyons or if you took my course at De Anza College. So it's live one-on-one. A couple questions coming in. Hank is asking, will there be a printed syllabus for the training with Jay? So we definitely will work out a syllabus. We put all of our course materials into a course shell. So when you log on to a course, you have access to all of the printed materials and then anything such as models or drawings, PDF files that we're delivering as supplemental materials. And then we also record each week's presentation by Jay, the Q&A, and then the weekly office hours. So all of those video recordings are also stored in your course shell so that you have access to that course and you have access to those materials forever. If you want something ahead of time, Hank, if you navigate to eapprentice.net, and you'll notice Jay's course is the front and center right there at the top. Just click on Learn More, and there's quite a list on the landing page for Jay's course of the features and functions that Jay's going to cover. And of course, for me, the most valuable part of any class, the presentation is great, but once you get to the Q&A, I think that's where the learning really takes place, because that's where you can just open up any can of worms you want to, and we'll just delve into it and see what we figure out. We've even been known to help people with parts they might be working on at work. So
That's true. There. And I could see them coming back. Also, too, is that because you have next week's course comes up, so you do the first class or second or third, or say we're fourth class in, you're doing it, you get off with time, you're done with me, you go home, or you're at home, sorry, and you do the project, and you're trying to do it and you're having issues. So the next week when we come in, we go into that questionnaire time, that's a fan. If we haven't done an office time at that particular time yet, go ahead and bring that, bring up that project and say, hey, this is what kind of issues I'm having. So it's kind of like the same thing as you're in a classroom where you can go back and ask the teacher later on. It's not going to be where you're going to look at it, you're going to review the recording, and go, okay, I couldn't get it to work. Now what do I do? No, you're able to come back and ask those questions. Along with is that, Derek, I think you've mentioned it, is that they can email. You'll have part of your information and everything like that as a way to email me, can contact with me, ask questions, send me your part model and everything, your file, and I'll be able to sometimes go in there and go, hey, you know what, let me look at that real quickly. And it might be in the middle of the day sometime, and I'll pull that open real quickly. And, oh yeah, this is what I see. I'll write you a quick note and send it back to you. If it's in depth, then I will wait until we go back onto the course. We'll go through our first portion of the course that night, and then before I go into the questionnaire, I say, hey, let me take 5 minutes out here to go ahead and answer. Hey, maybe it might be Hank, it might be your part. Going in there and going, Hank is having an issue with this part of this. I want you guys to all see what's happening, because we're all going to make these same mistakes, or hey, maybe it's not the mistake, maybe something else is actually an issue. So we can go ahead and review that, and everybody can see what the issues are, because you might come across that same issue.
Exactly. Okay, well, you have a question coming in from Jersey. What about the student version of X7? Do you want to run with that one, Jay?
Okay, so yeah, that's one of the reasons. That's one of the thoughts here. Yes, you will eventually. I say, and I hate to say it this way, eventually. There's is Mastercam might release, if everything goes right, it should release before the end of this month. Then it's going to be up to. I've over the last several years that I've been using Mastercam for 25 years, and I've been a beta tester since version 7 of Mastercam, not this X7, version 7. And there's usually home learning edition, and the demo versions don't usually come out until about 30 days later. But what we'll probably wind up doing is, I'm sure Derek can agree with me on this, is we'll set you up with the X6, because some of the stuff you'll see, it'll be the basic. You'll be able to start your project to see how the system works and be able to do your toolpaths and not get lost. And then as soon as the X7 HLE comes out, I know I'm always one of the first people to get it. I will get that, we'll get it up on the system, we'll get that for a download, and you will finish that course using the X7.
Exactly. So could be 30 days, but you will have the student version of X7. We'll start off by giving you the student version of X6, and Jay can run both. So if there were any questions, like, hey, you just showed us this in X7, but how does it work in X6? Jay could pull up X6 and show you how it works there. So I don't think that's a huge problem. And Jay and I have already discussed this, and ideally we just release the student version that day, but as Jay said, it's in our experience, it usually takes them, a good 30 days to release that second product. So let's keep it going here. I got plenty of room here, guys. We've got some time. I see quite a few people out there, but not many questions. So go ahead and type your questions in. Um, so Brian is asking, could you compare the self-guided course? So I think what you're saying there, Brian, is what's the difference between this course with Jay and the self-guided course? And the difference is the live factor. So when we do courses, we've got a couple different techniques that we use. We record them ahead of time. Sometimes we record the webinars and then we do some editing. So basically, all of the course materials in a self-guided recorded course would be the same, but you would just be watching video tutorials. We'll still help you out via email, but when you join a live course, you are, as you are right now, interacting with Jay. A typical scenario is that Jay will come on, do a 30-minute presentation based on whatever concepts he wants to go over in the class, and then we'll do a Q&A session after that, and then you'll go and download your files and start working on the that week's assignment, and you'll always come up with some questions while you're doing the assignment. So about halfway into the next week, we'll do an office hour where we come back online and we don't present anything in the midweek office hour. We just help you with your questions, and we can share your screen. We can go back and forth. You can upload files for us. There many things we can do there. So the live element is definitely the big difference between the two course types.
Because you can still ask questions during. Those questions will be if you start to post a question while I'm working, I will review those questions as soon as we get done. So you'll actually be able to post your question at that time and get an answer that at that evening instead of waiting.
Right. And excuse me while I'm typing here. Some questions I just type in directly and answer them if they're not necessarily relevant for everybody. So there was a question from Ben. Sorry, I was late. Computer problems. Will this be shown? Yes, we'll get this up, Ben, and you guys will be happy to know we've always had these questions, and I've actually switched over to the Apple Mac operating system very simply so that I could do a better job of recording and processing these webinars because the PC based requires an additional processing task that always, it literally takes me days. So hopefully this is the first one I'm doing on my MacBook Pro, and hopefully I can have this up and running on YouTube by tomorrow. I will send all of you a link to today's webinar, YouTube links. You can all watch the video again tomorrow if you missed it, or if there were just some things in there. I know Jake crammed a lot in there for just a few minutes, and if you want to see how he's doing things again, you can get back there and watch the video on YouTube.
Yeah, there wasn't as much definition as we'd like at the particular time because, like I said, we're just trying to give you an idea of some of the things and the tools you can use and some of the tools you will learn to use. And you can see how I can just roll through that real quick. But when it comes to the course time, that's where we slow down, show you all that detail, and make sure that you understand why and how and what does it do for me? Why, for example, am I going to use dynamic WCS? What's the difference? Why can't I just have multiple files? And I go when I do it and I talk about it and I teach you, I talk about those thoughts and why, and I show you thoughts of why you'll find this to be faster and more efficient when using your parts, including that thought of being able to make your designer is designing in SolidWorks, and he gives you the part, you reorientate it, you go to work. The designer comes all of a sudden, the next morning you're finishing up, all of a sudden the designer comes back and says, we've made modifications. There's a new model here. How do I bring that in real easily and reset that and actually see the differences? I'm going to show you a tool that a lot of people don't realize that it will actually show you against your part that you've already got in there. And then how do I transfer those tool paths over to that new part?
Right, exactly. Okay, well, moving on, let's see. Okay, question coming in from Tony. What will be the total hours of the entire session? Right now, we're planning this course to be 8 weeks, and the weekly presentations usually last around an hour. And then an hour, Jay will do a presentation, and then we do a Q&A afterwards. And sometimes we have been known to go over. If we have a lot of questions, we're happy to hang in there and make sure you know where we're going.
Hey, Derek, I'm going to jump in the middle of this. I'm going
Yeah.
to, you know what? I'm feeling kind of gracious today. So it's going to be a 2-hour session.
2 hour session per
2-hour session per night.
per night. All right.
Per night.
Well, folks, you heard it here live. 2 hours per night. And then while Jay's still in a good mood, I'm going to throw in that additional office hour. So he'll
Yep.
come back once a week and help you out, or he and I, or a combination. Sometimes Jay, Micah, and Mike and I. We've got 7 instructors so far on eApprentice, and very often just some of our other instructors just drop in, and those are some of the best sessions because you get to hear different people's viewpoints. So you're looking at 8 weeks. It's say about 2 to 3 hours per week, so it's about 24 hours of actual one-on-one time with Jay, and then of course you're going to need to spend at least that much time, if not twice that much time, on your own doing these assignments. So we will give you a version of Mastercam, the Mastercam Home Learning Edition, but really you do need to be prepared, guys. This is not something you can learn by just watching videos or even asking questions of the instructor. You're going to have to do the work, and you're going to struggle. It's a tough software product to learn. It's super powerful, but that makes it super complicated. So plan on putting in, at least 60 hours over the 8 weeks of the course. But I'll tell you what, you'll be a decent basic level Mastercam programmer by the end of it. And that's making an assumption that you already have a background in machining, CNC machining. I don't want to give you the impression that if you've never cut metal, that you can take this course and go get a job as a CNC programmer. That's not the case. But if you are, a bare beginner and just getting started, well, this will really help you get your feet wet. But if you're a machinist, you're already working in a shop, you've been setting up and operating machines, and you want to take this course, you are really going to get some mileage out of it and get some benefit out of the course. Now, bear with me a moment, guys. I have a small technical difficulty here, in that my questions have disappeared, and I have a few more to go.
Wow, I hate when that happens.
You know what it does, Jay, is it drops behind a window, and there we go. It just took me a while to figure it out. Sorry about that. This is live TV, folks. Expect things to go wrong. Okay, let's see. Where was I? Total hours. I think we covered that. So 24 hours or so with live one-on-one with Jay, but expect to spend at least twice that amount on your own. Ryan is not very happy. Is it really necessary to wait until May 1st to start the class if the HE edition of X7 doesn't come out until 30 days after that? Well, I don't know what to say, Ryan. We kind of took a vote, and we got voted 10-1 to wait until X7. But I tell you what we can do. Send me an email, and we'll talk offline, and we'll see if we can get you some access to some materials ahead of time. Some of the recorded stuff. Sounds like you just really want to get going. We'll get you started on that, and then once we start on May 1st, or May 1st or thereabouts, I will get you in the live class. So send me an email offline on that one, Ryan. Derek at eapprentice.net, DEREK at eapprentice.net. We'll take that one offline. Let's see.
I mu- I must say I'm sorry that he's a little bummed, but I am excited to have him because he wants to learn. He's obviously saying, I don't want to wait that long. I want to go now.
Hey,
And that tells me there's excitement. He's ready to go. He wants to get it. He doesn't want to wait. He wants to learn today. Tomorrow could be too late for him.
yeah.
No, it's never too late to learn, but I'm looking forward to having you, Tony.
That one was Ryan, but yeah. So
Oh,
we'll
I'm sorry. I could swear you said Tony. So
Tony
I'm
was the
sorry,
one
Ryan
before
or
that.
Tony.
Yeah, all of them, right?
I'm looking forward to everybody. The more the merrier. I like to have a lot of people. I like a lot of questions on that. So I'm hoping that that's part of the thought is the interaction. I thrive on the interaction and being able to answer your questions and get you through what you need.
Right. Fair enough. So we appreciate that, Ryan. Get in touch with us offline. We'll get you started a little bit ahead of time with some recorded materials that will help you out. Let's keep this going. Okay. Well, I got another question from Ryan. Will we be getting a grade or a certificate at the end of the course? My employer will reimburse me based on this. So the answer is yes. eApprentice does issue a certificate of completion for all of our courses if you complete all of the work to our expectations. So we typically have programming assignments. Sometimes those are supplemented by quizzes if we feel it's necessary. And yes, at the end of that, we will issue a certificate. Now, it's not college credit. Jay and I both teach at colleges, but you'd have to sign up at College of the Canyons or De Anza College to actually get college units. But we base our courses on the same here at the Apprentice on the same courses we do teach at college. So you will get a certificate and a nice letter on our letterhead with our logo, and I'm sure your employer will have no problem reimbursing you. And if they need to, have them give me a call, and we can discuss with them. We can even show your employer what's going on in the course, and they will be impressed. I can assure you of that. Let's see. It will okay. Um, Ryan again. Okay, Ryan.
Why don't you just open up his mic? He's got all
Yeah,
kinds of
yeah.
questions.
Where is Ryan? All right, I'll do that. Let me see if I can do this. I'm on my Mac, guys, so I'm still learning here. Let's see if Ryan's out there. Um, okay. Yeah, you know what? I'm sorry, I can't do that, guys. I got to do text
Okay.
here. Yeah, for some reason on my Mac here, I'm not able to mute or unmute people. So I see Kaka is out there with a hand raised, and I'm sorry, I'm not able to unmute you either. This is a tech support issue I'll have to deal with tomorrow. So if you could type in your question, we'll get to that. So back to Ryan's question. Right now, we have it scheduled every Thursday at 4 o'clock p.m. Pacific time. I'm not sure where you're located, Ryan. And this is, there may be some flexibility there. If we could take a poll, if a lot of people, if that time didn't work for everybody, I'm sure we're open to taking a look at it. Our schedules are busy too, so just got to try. And Jay and I are usually just trying to find an hour where we can fit this in. I say Jay and I mean Jay and I and all of the other instructors. Colin runs his classes on Saturday afternoons right now. Mike's run his on Saturday evenings. So we do move them around a little bit based on the instructor. But currently, Thursday evening, 4 o'clock p.m. Pacific time is what we have sketched in for the course presentations.
That seems like about the same time as now.
At about the same time as now, exactly. There's
Okay.
probably a good reason why we did this at the same time. So good enough. Okay, so Kaka, if you have a question, go ahead and type that in. I'm at the end of my questions today. I'm kind of surprised here. All the questions that came in were kind of course related. Typically, people will come in and ask a lot of technical questions like, "Hey, Jay, can you show me how you did that WCS again?" But I guess today the presentation was just spot on. Everybody got it the first time there, Jay.
They're looking for the course to get the answers. They're
I
going,
see. I see.
I think that's what it's coming down to.
Right, right. Good.
They don't
Okay.
want the one piece, they want all of it. That's what, if I was the student, I want one piece, but yeah, I really want the whole package because I want all the information because I don't want to have to go back and ask questions because I want to know how to do it in detail.
I gotcha. All right, Jay. Well, we're coming up to it, to the end of our hour here. Looks like I've gotten all the questions for today. I'd like to thank everybody for being here. We do appreciate it. We realize that you're spending your time here as well. Um, okay. Ben said that his email said 4 p.m. to 5 a.m., which would be a long night. Yeah, that's my mistake. I'm sure that's a a typo that I've done there, Ben. So no, definitely 4 o'clock to looks like it's actually going to be 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. now. Jay's looking really at a 2 hour presentation. It's
Yes.
hard to fit everything in there. I've got several people saying thank you, Ben, Tony, Danny Foxworth. Thank you for the presentation. So we appreciate it for all of you guys. I got to go get into another class myself right now. So I'm going to go ahead and sign out. Jay, I'd like to thank you. Fantastic presentation. And
No, thank you for everybody for showing up and taking your time out and looking at this. And I hope to see most of you in the course.
absolutely appreciate it, everybody. So, and quite a few people saying thank you. I got to scroll down. So, um, let's see. Ryan saying thank you. Jersey saying thank you. Ben is saying wants some coffee. Yeah, we would need some coffee, Ben, if that's on the Ron Branch. We actually have Ron Branch online today. Says good job, guys. So we appreciate it, Ron. Thanks for coming in. It's kind of
Thanks, Ron. I'm still looking for that phone call, by the way. But hey, thank you.
Yeah, well, I actually were talked to Ron while you were online tonight, so good stuff. Kwong says thank you, thank you. Jesus says thanks, guys, thanks. So yeah, we appreciate it, everybody. We're going to sign off and look for communication from us. We do have your email addresses, everybody who was here today, so we will definitely contact you and let you know once we have the new course date ironed it out. It will just be within a couple of weeks. We appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. Bye
Thank
for
you.
now.
Bye bye.